all these bump stops, I put LEDs in the back of them myself, just to give it a little lighting effect. Also on these switches, the indicators work with the switch. They're all DCC, but I struggled with what was which way it was going, so I mounted these little micro LEDs in the track, and so depending on the direction of the switch, it's green LED or a red LED. That was something else I came up with. The airport, just white micro LEDs on one, and then of course the green end is, I don't know, something I just thought of, and then the red is for the red. These were the most difficult parts to hook up right here. These big stanchions or whatever they call these things. Trying to get the right light to work with the direction of the switch was a wiring nightmare, because each one of those signals have 3 lights in them, red, yellow, green, and then trying to get those to work with the direction of all these switches here took me a good while to figure all that out. It was a bloody nightmare. I'll just run one train. This is a consist train where they're both DCC. One's not a dummy. They're both running, and they you got to program them so one will run one direction, one will run the other direction. Plus you got to program so that they don't push or pull against each other. So once you start messing with your DCC outfit, this is one of the more complicated programs to get the lights to work on the headlights, the direction that the engine's going, and not to get them to pull or push against each other. There's charts and tables that you have to use to set up the inertia on them. So as you can see, it's making a switch turn here, and it'll eventually work its way back all the way to a point where I can get on the main track, because it's in the yard right now, and get on the main track and run around in circles. And then with the handheld controller, I was always leaving the stupid thing on, so I used a micro LED and a small socket. They make little sockets for these LEDs, and I mounted it in the controller so that when the controller's on, because it's wireless, I don't let the batteries run down. So got a little red LED in the bottom there that lets me know that the thing is on. Reach up here and turn the power off, and then the LED goes away. All these buildings were, I can't remember what company I got these buildings from, but they were all pre-painted. I mean, the detail on these buildings were unbelievable, but they were expensive. I think Horizon was selling them at one point in time, and they were about $50 team cost per building. But I mean, you don't have to paint them or anything like that, and they're already done. They're really nice. Like, all the buildings are from the same company, and they were all pre-painted. I tried to build a couple and tried to paint a couple, and it was just a bloody nightmare to try to do it. So I went ahead and spent the extra money and bought them already pre-painted. You could buy them in kit form or pre-painted. Just another building. All the buildings are lit too. They don't show up too well, but yeah, there you can see there's a light inside all of the buildings. They've all got a light in them. I don't know how well this will show up, but this is kind of how I do the lighting and stuff. This is like a bus bar system, and then for the LEDs you have to have a diode and a resistor. So down underneath the track, which you got to get down and look under it, this is kind of how it's all wired up. It's not it's not pretty, but man, for the amount of lighting and stuff that's on the track, that was the easiest way to do it. Now this is under the main track. The other one I'll show you here in a minute, they go through the wall. So this is the yard track, and this was a real nightmare. I run the wires through the the bed of the track, and then I run them through the wall, and on the other side of the wall looks a little bit like what I just showed you on the main track. But every time I'd have to make a change or a wire, I'd have to go out of this room into another room behind the wall and hook things up. I'd never do it again. I mean, it was kind of a neat way. It was my original way of doing it, so you didn't see any wires. But after I did the main track, I decided, it wasn't worth going through the wall and doing all that running back and forth, because the wiring was just so complicated with the switches and the switch indicator LEDs that I'd have wore myself out trying to figure out how to do it. So just a big wide shot with the lights on in the room. That's this is the yard track. I was limited on space, and then comes over here to the main track, and it runs round and round, and you can pull in the yard and pull off the yard with all the switches, and it's all controlled with the MRC controller. I can't tell you, Dave, how many hours I had in this thing. I mean, probably hundreds and hundreds of hours in trying to get all the switches and all the lights to match the direction of the switches was almost an impossibility. But anyway, this is the layout. I built it in 2010. It still works, with the exception of a few of the little wheat bulbs are out, and I've got to fix those. And it's a big job. I mean, you gotta pull the bulb apart, the stanchion apart, then you got to go on the back side of the wall and unsolder from the bus bar, pull the wire through. I mean, just changing a light bulb, is a half hour to 45-minute job, so it's a nightmare.